In this chapter of the Primal Lifestyle Guide, I'm going over making tasty recipes. If today's your day one, everything you need you can find at the grocery store. You need to learn the basic recipe guidelines and start experimenting with recipes immediately. Don't rely on eating plain meat by itself and expect to be happy, but of course you can still have plain meat the first time you get started if you don't want to make a recipe. Fresh versus frozen. One of the most important things to avoid is eating frozen food. Make sure that your meat and butter is fresh and never frozen. Most of the time, if meat is on the shelf and it's not frozen, it never has been. Just ask and they will tell you. The only places that are capable of lying are small butcher shops. Big grocery stores are regulated by corporate overseers, so every location is the same, and random employees don't have any care nor incentive to lie. The only exception is sometimes in the back of the shelf, it will tend to freeze. And how will you know when that happens? You don't. You might accidentally eat frozen meat 2 to 5% of the time because sometimes the temperature in the back of the shelf is too cold. But if you want to be careful, you get the big uncut packs of meat in the back of the cooler at the butcher counter because that's more carefully controlled. You can get like 8 pound of top sirloin or whatever in the back of the butcher where it's not even cut up yet. It's just vacuum sealed. They'll take that out and then they'll cut it into steaks and then package it and put it on the counter. You can just go straight to the back and get it from them. And often they'll actually give you $1 off per pound if you do that. And it's less likely to be exposed to chemicals and it's more fresh because it's had the moisture retained in the vacuum seal. When they let it sit out on the counter, it's been actually drying for a day or two before you buy it because it's exposed to the open air. If you're really worried about your meat being fresh or frozen, just eat fresh meat and frozen meat right next to each other and you can tell that frozen meat tastes different. I trust that stores like Sprouts, Whole Foods, and Publix supply fresh meat. Meat is best consumed at room temperature, but that is not mandatory. You may notice cold meat doesn't sit as well in your stomach or that you might not be able to eat as much of it. You'll also heal more slowly with cold meat as it will require energy from you to warm it back up inside of your body. You can warm patéed beef up the same way that you make lubrication formulas, by putting a jar of a serving of meat in a bowl of very warm, almost hot water. If you do that with multiple servings and make it slightly too hot, you might accidentally cook it a little bit, so I'd only ever warm up one serving at a time because cooked meat that's left to sit out will rot. Not ferment, cooked food rots, raw meat ferments. This might not be a likely thing to happen where you actually make it hot enough to make you sick, but just to be safe, don't warm up more than one serving of meat at a time, and don't make it too hot, just to be safe. As long as the meat doesn't go above 104 degrees, then it's fine. Agenus even mentioned he'll put the cold meat in a jar in a bowl of 130 to 140 degree water. And when I heard that, I'm like, is he for real? That's not going to cook the meat? He's like, yeah, by the time it warms up, like the water cools down and the meat's so cold that it doesn't, get too hot. And so I don't know if he actually said 140 or 130. It was at least 130 though. So you can make it pretty warm, but still, I'd be careful just in case. I would take the meat out of the water after like 2 minutes and then stir it and put it back in to make sure that the middle of the meat is warming up also along with the outside. Methods of preparation. You can dice meat, eat it in strips. You can use a food processor to pâté it or use the slicing attachment to get thin slices, which many people prefer. Regardless of how you prepare it, it's good to do it in advance and store it so that it's ready whenever you want to eat. If you go a day or two without meat, you will likely not feel or think as well. If meat is not appetizing at any time, sauces will be very important to make sure that you're eating. If after making sauces and making sure to drink enough vegetable juice you still don't want to eat, it'd be best to force feed yourself a little. Even if you have no appetite, you really don't want to eat, and it's absolutely repulsive, at least eat 1 ounce of meat. You can at least have 1 bite or 2 bites of meat, force it down, and then you'll feel better because you at least have some protein in you. If you are in a rush and don't have time to eat, or you have no appetite or care to eat at all, remember, just have a golf ball sized piece of meat. It'll make a huge difference in how you feel for the entire day. Do not leave your house in the morning without at least having a golf ball size of meat. So let me repeat. Do not leave your house in the morning without having at least a golf ball sized piece of meat. Food combination guidelines. We require an acidic digestive environment to digest raw meat, raw milk, and raw eggs effectively. Avoid salads within 24 hours of eating raw meat. They can overly alkalize your intestines for up to a whole day and impair the digestion of raw meat. But salads should generally be avoided altogether. There's only a few times that Audinus ever recommends them, and it's very rare. When you drink your vegetable juice, it'll alkalize your stomach for about an hour. So wait at least an hour between raw meat and vegetable juice. Do not drink raw milk within 30 minutes of vegetable juice. Milk requires acidity and will not mix with the juice. The cream in milk is okay with the juice if you put the cream in the juice. Even if it's a little runny, it's only a little bit of milk in that cream. Sometimes I may get nauseous if I drink juice without cream, and if I take one sip of milk, then that will help with that. But again, it's preferable to use the cream and not milk when mixed with juice. With eggs, you only need to wait about 15 minutes after the vegetable juice. Here's the thing, a lot of people should actually be stirring an egg into their vegetable juice. You're not going to fully digest that egg, but it will still help you to prevent a protein deficiency from that serving of juice. And also the fat in the egg yolk helps absorb some toxins from the detox that it causes. So when you suck your 3 raw eggs or 7 raw eggs in the morning when you wake up, it's good to wait 15 minutes before you start drinking that juice. That way you can make sure you fully absorb and utilize the nutrients in those eggs before you have your juice. And then you have another egg stirred into that juice to make sure that it doesn't cause a deficiency. Avoid drinking water close to a raw meat meal. It will dilute your digestive juices and impair digestion. The same applies to raw milk, but for a different reason. The cream in the milk causes indigestion when mixed with meat. So you cannot have cream with raw meat either, unless it is sour. Sour cream is fine because it digests more easily. Milk is also slightly alkalizing despite being acidic, and too much with meat will impair digestion just like vegetable juice will. Kefir with meat is okay in small amounts, but ideally have no more than a half cup, or it can overly alkalize the meal and impair digestion. Raw milk, it should be no more than maybe 1 ounce, maybe 2 ounces of milk with your meat meal. For red meat, you should never have lemon, lime, or fruit with it, except pineapple, papaya, tomato, cucumber, apple cider vinegar. Those are all fine. If you break this combination rule, it'll cause a chemical reaction with the protein that prevents the full healing benefit of the raw meat. Any fruit or citrus is okay with white meat, aka chicken or fish. Overeating fruit in general can destroy your ability to digest meat. Don't have more than 1.5 cups a day unless you're very tall. No more than 1 tablespoon of green vegetation per 8 ounces of meat, such as lettuce, celery, or herb, like basil, cilantro, dill, anything that's green, because it'll be overly alkalizing. No more than 1 tablespoon of onion per 8 ounces of meat, because it'll cause indigestion and gas and overstimulation. Women are often less tolerant to onions, so no more than 1 tablespoon of onion per 8 ounces of meat. If you're a woman, I'd do maybe 2/3 of that. Some women are fine though. If after consuming tomatoes with meat, you see red in your poop, you need to peel your tomatoes as the skin is too fibrous and alkalizing for your body as an individual. It might not affect everybody like that, but if you see red in your poop after eating tomatoes, you need to peel them. It's also generally more appetizing to cut the tomato in half and squeeze the juice out of the middle, because it can make the sauce too soggy, but it depends on the recipe. Don't overdo the potent herbs like ginger and garlic. It can overstimulate you and make you very unbalanced or anxious. Some of these herbs have natural heavy metals that in small amounts are fine if fresh because they're utilizable by the body, but if consumed in large amounts, then it can actually be too much to utilize. If the herbs are dried or cooked, the once bioavailable metals in them will become purely toxic. They are only utilizable fresh in small amounts. Always have fat with meats, preferably butter, as it's the most healing fat to consume in combination with meat. Sour cream is the second best. If you don't have either, you can have a little bit of avocado, eggs, or extra meat fat, but you won't gain as much weight or be as satisfied with them. And when I say eggs, I'm not saying egg yolk. I'm saying have the whole egg with the meat. If you want to have the egg yolk with the meat for flavor or because you need fat with it, that's fine, but don't throw away the whites. Eat them on the side. The Primal diet does not include the addition of any type of salt in our foods. Audinus says eating salt is almost as harmful as cooking our foods. Sodium and salt are not the same thing. Salt contains sodium, but sodium is not salt. Sodium being labeled as salts is a misnomer. On a cooked diet, salt may be necessary for most, but on a raw diet it becomes detrimental. Even on a cooked diet, the salt can help break down the cooked food, but it's still going to hurt you at the same time, even if it may be necessary. It is inherently toxic, overstimulating, and leads to many problems that Odgenus details in his books and newsletters. Salt will destroy your body's ability to separate any potential toxins from the nutrients in the meat. So if an animal has any kind of toxicity in it, whether a vaccine or a bad diet, generally your body won't absorb the toxins, and it will break apart the nutrients and only absorb the nutrients and then shit out all the toxins. But if the meat is cooked, frozen, or salted, your body cannot differentiate between the toxins and the nutrients, and it just absorbs everything. That applies for muscle meat. When it comes to an organ, it has to be the proper quality because it's too much to separate. Because the toxins are concentrated in organs and glands, and it's too much to separate. Salt also breaks up and fractionates nutrients, making it impossible for the cells to absorb the entirety of the nutrients in the food that you eat. It basically rips out the guts of the cells and speeds up aging. Our bodies are not made to process salt. It's like a rock, and it just rips open cells in your body. If you look at salt in the blood under a microscope, you'll find clumps of salt surrounded by dead cells. Salt is also known to kill bacteria and act as a preservative. It kills bacteria all throughout the body, including our digestive tract, which reduces the healing potential of our bodies. You put salt in the ground, it kills the plants. It burns the roots. The same thing happens to our intestines. It burns our intestinal bacteria, leading to poor digestion and nutrient absorption over time. A craving for salt leads to the body needing minerals, not salt itself. People coming off of high salt diets often miss the taste of salt or feel off because their bodies have been thrown out of balance by it. The body may need additional minerals, but not from salt. You must consume plenty of fresh raw tomatoes, raw cheese, shellfish, and celery juice. If after consuming those you still have a craving for salt, you may have so much old toxic salt in the system that it steals all the sodium that you eat, so you never absorb any. Eat more tomatoes, and then in the afternoons, eat watermelon with avocado, preferably with cheese and butter also. The more salt you eat, the more you will crave it, because it causes more and more mineral deficiencies. Salt licks are popular with farmers because they are uneducated, and also because they increase the sellable weight of the animals due to water retention. It would be better to use mineral blocks like dolomite rather than cheap salt blocks. Giving an animal a salt block is not going to truly fulfill their deficiencies. It's an incomplete and toxic remedy. 85% of headaches are caused by salt, according to Odgenus. It swells the fluids in the brain, leading to pain. He did blood and urine analysis of people experiencing headaches and found lots of sodium clumps surrounded by dead cells from the liver and brain in the exact moments that blood was drawn while experiencing headaches. Meat ingredients you can use. You can dice, slice, or puree the following: herb like dill, basil, cilantro, lettuce, etc. Onion, no more than 1 tablespoon per 8 ounces of meat. Garlic, don't do too much, just a tiny little corner piece diced and crushed. Ginger, don't do too much, must be fresh, or you can also pickle it raw at home without salt. You can use turmeric. Hot pepper, don't do too much. Tomato, cucumber, always peeled because the peel has a toxic wax on it, even if organic, and also because the peel is too fibrous, it'll overly alkalize the meal. Olive oil, no more than a tablespoon, verified to actually be legitimately cold pressed via phone or email inquiry. Sometimes cold pressed is actually hot, and because of legal definitions they can call it cold, even though it's not actually cold. Mushroom, nut formula, 1 tablespoon per 8 ounces of meat. Mustard seeds must be unpasteurized and blended. Wasabi, freshly grated, not dried. Horseradish root. Avocado, half of an avocado per 3 meat meals max. Shouldn't be having too much avocado unless it's the only fat you have. I think I remember hearing Odgenus at some point saying don't have more than a half of an avocado per 3 meat meals, because then you're not going to utilize it fully. That's if assuming you also have butter and sour cream. If you don't have butter, sour cream, then you can go ahead and have more avocado. Butter, sour cream, coconut cream, 2 to 4 tablespoons a day max, generally speaking. Raw apple cider vinegar, honey, 1 tablespoon per 8 ounces of meat max. Cheese, usually it's grated in the meals if you're going to use it. Homemade, truly raw, no salt coleslaw or sauerkraut, 1 tablespoon max per 8 ounces. Only consume a little. It has the potential for side effects, as fermented vegetables can cause indigestion or unstable energy because it can be overly stimulating to the body. If you notice any types of side effects, stop consumption. You can use scallions, chives. You can use egg yolk, but remember, if you ever use egg yolk in a recipe, you have to drink the white on the side. You can use oysters or any shellfish, or a mix of any other meat. You can have chicken mixed with fish, you can have beef and chicken together. So these are generally the foods you can use in combination in any of your recipes. Tip: using scissors to cut meat can be helpful. Remember, no more than 1 ounce total of anything green with your meat meal per 8 ounces of meat. Tomatoes and cucumbers are a little alkaline too, so be aware to slightly reduce anything green if you also include those. So if you use a few tablespoons of cucumber, then you should probably only do a tablespoon or a tablespoon and a half of herb. Pay attention to your digestion and see how you feel. Example recipes. When it comes to beef, I almost always prefer it sautéed. Sometimes I go through phases where I prefer it diced. Chicken and fish I only like finely diced. I don't like it to be sautéed. I don't like pork to be sautéed because it's too fatty and I don't enjoy fatty pâté. Find what you like. Quick recipe. You can simply take a small piece of garlic, dice it, and mix it with meat and a tiny bit of honey. You could also add a little bit of onion in addition, or instead of the garlic, you could use fresh herbs, tomato, anything, or even with the garlic. Any combination works, but not every combination is enjoyable. More ingredients isn't always better. For more flavor, you can marinate any recipe for an hour or two. If it isn't red meat, you can add some lemon, lime, or fruit. Multiply ingredients for preparing in advance to save time. My preference is that if I am dicing, I make it right before eating, but I prefer to make blended recipes in advance. I don't think that the diced recipes keep as well as when they are blended, but find what works for you. Example recipes: red meat recipe. Ideally blended. 1 tomato, juice squeezed out. 1/4 teaspoon of grated ginger, optional. 2 teaspoons of onion. 1 teaspoon of honey. A little bit of hot pepper, also optional. 1 teaspoon of cilantro or dill. 1 capful of apple cider vinegar. 1/16 clove of garlic. Remove it if you get too horny. All that is blended. Keep it in the fridge. Pour that onto your meat, and then grate about 3 tablespoons of cheese onto the meat. Don't put it in the sauce, but grate it immediately before eating. Cheese also optional. Chicken recipe: 8 ounces of diced chicken breast. Blend the following: 1 tomato, 1 hot pepper, 2 tablespoons of fresh lime juice, 1 teaspoon of fresh lemon juice, half teaspoon of vinegar, apple cider, 1/4 of a diced red bell pepper. Avoid bell pepper if you ever experience tooth pain. You blend all that. Then you finally dice the following and put it into the sauce: 2 tablespoons of diced celery stalk, 1 slice of an avocado or 1 raw egg, 1 tablespoon of diced red onions, finely diced, not big pieces. Make it very fine. 1 teaspoon of cilantro, optional. Optional, marinate for an hour for more flavor. Fish recipe: 8 ounces of diced swordfish, 1/4 to half teaspoon of grated ginger, half of a lemon squeezed, don't put the seeds in it, capful of raw apple cider vinegar, 1 to 2 teaspoons of honey, mix. When it comes to blended sauces, I think it tastes way better to pour the sauce on top of the meat and eat it layered on the spoon instead of mixing it. That's for sautéed recipes. I take the sautéed meat, I put a layer of butter on top of that, and then I pour the sauce on top, and then I eat it in layers on the spoon, starting taking pieces from the edges of the bowl. Ways to stay satisfied. It is important to not let yourself get hungry. You should have the cheese, eggs, and juice immediately upon waking, in that order. Do not wait to start your routine. Then, have your meat meal with your desired sauce and ideally a lubrication formula. A little while later, enjoy some cheesecake filling. About an hour after the meat, then you start sipping the milk. This is also a good time where you can have a milkshake if you like instead of the milk. Don't spend any time waiting to eat. If you're ever hungry, eat immediately. Never ignore your hunger. Once it's afternoon, you can start having other foods. You could start eating dates with butter and or cheese with the dates, since it's not the first 6 hours of the day anymore, because you avoid sugar in the first 6 hours of the day from fruit. It's a very delicious and satisfying way to just get a lot of good food in you, like doing the dates and cheese, or dates and butter. You could also make a smoothie, which is a milkshake with fruit, or you can have fruit with butter or cream, like a banana with butter, strawberries with cream, for example. Throughout the day, you just have your lubes, milkshakes, cheesecake, ice cream, dates, smoothies, and even you can make the pies and soups and other recipes from Agenus's book. Whatever you've found to enjoy. Just remember, if the recipe involves cream, you don't have it within an hour of meat. I personally often wake up very hungry in the middle of the night and can't go back to sleep unless I eat. To fix that, I have a milkshake ready by my bedside, and I take a few sips in the middle of the night, or I'll suck an egg, or, sometimes milk helps, but milk usually isn't enough by itself, and neither is having a little bit of cheese. I need an egg, milkshake, chicken, or cheese and honey.